Pro Football Hall of Famer. Howie Long back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Howie?
Well, I'm good. It was an exciting night. I think it was an exciting night for basketball fans in general, but particularly for Villanova brethren. Diane and I sat and watched, and my phone was blowing up during the game. It was a pretty remarkable night. I'm not a basketball historian,
Sure.
but it certainly appeared to be, if not the best finals finish or finals game, it was certainly up there.
So what does this win mean for the Villanova community, Howie? What do you think?
Well, it's such a special community, and I last night just watching the whole thing, take root, and the finishing of the game, and then Jay's reaction and the post-game press conference and the shots of Raleigh Massimino. Jay and Raleigh are so close. What Raleigh means to that program, and Jay mentioning, how Raleigh gave him the opportunity and gave him the chance, and that's a special bond and a special relationship. And Jay including that 85 team into the kind of yearly, weekly, daily kind of mindset of that team that won last night, respecting that team and the legacy that they brought to the university, but also forging their own. And for Ryan Arcidiacono to finish, his career there, and Patty and Joe were at Villanova, his mom and dad when we were there, great people, and he's a great kid. And the Jenkins shot at the end, and those two shots at the end were
It's unbelievable.
the double pump to tie with 4.5 left, and then the inbounds play and Jenkins on the trail, and pretty amazing.
Now, you were there from 77 to 80. Raleigh Massimino arrived from Stony Brook back in 1973. So Raleigh got there a couple years before you were there. And
Yeah.
when in 1980 was your last year in Villanova, the 80-81 season was Villanova's first in the newly formed Big East Conference. It truly is amazing, when you think about it, what this means for a conference that everybody thought was left for dead. Howie?
Yeah, and that's one viewpoint in terms of the conferences, and a lot's been made of the power conferences and the power teams, and I think Villanova is kind of it's an interesting dynamic. So many of the power teams from the power conferences are filled with one and done players, and Villanova certainly has its share of 4-year guys that are a part of the team, and from a leadership standpoint, it's a different philosophy, it's a different approach, and it's a unique university. I'm sure everyone feels the same way about their school.
Sure.
But the best of times were, I met my wife there. I've made so many lifelong friends there. Chris was born March 28th, 1985. We were in the hospital watching Villanova win the championship that year.
Kidding.
And Chris just had a son here in March, Waylon James, and we're all here in Charlottesville right now, and it's kind of a full circle irony to that story.
No kidding. I'm on the phone with Howie Long on the Rich Eisen Show. So, Jay Wright, have you spoken with him? Do you know him? Have you ever met him? What's your connection with the coach?
You have to understand, Rich. It's a really unique family kind of university. I'll give you an example.
Sure.
One of our coaches, who I've known since I was 16 years old, over the last couple of years has fallen on hard times from a medical standpoint, lack of insurance, a person who impacted so many generations of players, not just in football, but in basketball. When you talk about the Villanova community, it's truly a community and a family. And we started the process of reaching out to basketball guys, baseball guys, football guys from not only recent generations, but 2-3 generations ago, and within the course of a 12-month span, culminating with a kind of a impromptu tournament that we put together in Philadelphia, and there were multiple generations of Villanovans in that room, and basketball was well represented, and Jay's support of that event and previous fundraising events were important and integral to getting it done, and raised $500,000 in 12 months, just like that. It's a remarkable group of people, and Jay's a great guy, and ironically enough, we did the show Pearl Harbor weekend on the anniversary over in Hawaii, and that's where it all started. And Villanova was over there playing Oklahoma. We know how that game turned out. The Villanova basketball team tied the set, and were kind enough to come by the set, and the entire team was on the set. We our set during the broadcast. It was great for the season to have started there in Hawaii. It's an even more special time.
Howie Long joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. And speaking of Villanova history, you could have made some had you, if I'm not mistaken, been able to get one Michael Mayock to attend the university. Is it a true story that when Mayock showed up on the campus at Villanova?
Well, no, Mike was...
Or was it the other way around?
He was a year ahead of me, I think, at least a year ahead of me. At Boston College. Mike's a Philly boy. I think he wanted to go to Villanova. I'm not sure if he could meet the academic requirements. There's some, there's some gray area there.
Yes.
But Mike was part of my kind of what was an epic recruiting trip to Boston College as a 16-year-old. I don't think I had hair in my armpits at that point.
So he was your, he was
part of the group that was showing me around. Here I am, 16, I'm not shaving. Literally, I'm a child. And here's this Boston College team who that year had beaten Texas, the #1 team in the country. And their entire offensive line, I think, had tattoos of eagles on their rear end. So here I am, 16. I'm looking at this group of men, and I'm saying, how am I going to go here? Villanova turned out to be, and Mike and I laugh about it a lot because every time we played, Boston College and Villanova, and Mike has many close friends, and Mike's son ended up playing at Villanova, and so many of our friends, are friends of theirs.
And it worked out for Mike in Boston College. He got drafted.
It sure did. Mike's, as you know, as informed a guy as there is in terms of college evaluation and draft. If I worked as hard as Mike, I'd have to go to bed at 7 p.m.
I love it. That's so funny. And he eventually got out. He was with Pittsburgh, and then he hooked up with the Giants, and his position coach with special teams is now the head coach of your son in New England, in Bill Belichick. Howie, your son is now on a Bill Belichick team. What do you think about that?
It's very exciting. Well, I'm from there. I grew up there. I've always been someone who had a great deal of respect for Bill Belichick, the job he's done there, what they ask of their players from a commitment standpoint, from a preparation standpoint, their ability to change week to week, half to half, quarter to quarter, series to series requires a great deal of, one, coaching and a great deal of commitment from the players. It takes a certain type of player to play in that environment, to be that committed mentally and from a meeting standpoint, a preparation standpoint, and situational football, all of those things. And I've always felt like Chris was that kind of a guy. And although, he has a lot of great memories from his years in St. Louis with the Rams, I think it's a great opportunity to get another perspective and hopefully have an opportunity to contribute to a team that has a shot at a title this year.
Yeah, they're always in the mix. And,
I think it's like the last 13 years they've won, I think, 10, 11 division titles and 6 Super Bowls, 4 Super Bowl victories, lost 2 in the closing seconds. So, they're there. every year.
Howie Long, Hall of Famer, joining me here on The Rich Eisen Show. And I guess I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the big topic in the NFL right now, and that's Colin Kaepernick in San Francisco, where he showed up for his off-season workout program, even though he was with Elway reportedly last week. What do you think Kaepernick should be doing? Do you think he should try and kick the tires on Denver as best he can, even if it means a pay cut, or stick where he is?
I think, number one, his money's guaranteed, and I think there's a $400,000. Imagine that, a $400,000 off-season training bonus. Let me get this straight now. You get a bonus for being in shape and coming to work out.
Yeah, 90% of the workouts he gets six figures. Yeah.
Well, he makes 9 out of 10. Okay.
Yeah.
If I'm Colin Kaepernick, I would stick to my position. I'm guaranteed the money. If I don't want to be a part of the San Francisco organization, I'd let this process play out, and I'd wait to see how good the deal could be in Denver. And do I take the position that I can make $8 in Denver versus $11 in San Francisco, and I'm much happier in Denver, and it's a better fit for me? And I've always thought that players, when looking for free agency or when they've been released and they have an opportunity to look at multiple teams around the league, the last thing, well, not the last thing, but it's certainly not at the top of the list. It's always the money, the money, the money. How much different is your life going to be if you have $50 million in the bank or $55 million in the bank?
Mm-hmm. And if you have a ring on your finger or not, there's a big difference.
And does the system fit you? Does the scheme fit you? Does the team fit you? Are you comfortable there? To me, that's the most important thing.
Howie,
speaking as someone who played 13 years in the same place and never had the opportunity to take a breath outside of the building.
Was that a Mr. Davis thing? Is that what you were saying?
No, that's just it was the time. That's when it was. You weren't. There wasn't any freedom at that time of any kind. I made $38,000 my first year. Bought a used Coupe de Ville and was happy as a clam. Couldn't have been happier riding the streets of Oakland and coming in on third down and rushing the quarterback. And happy that I spent 13 years there and won a championship there. I'm a Raider and unapologetic for it.
Howie, thanks for the time. Congratulations on your alma mater coming up with a very special win. I mean, that's the sort of stuff, as I said at the top of the show, you grow up in the playground dreaming about a moment like that. And
and I think the ending was, it's obviously one of the all-time greats.
Howie, thanks for the time. You got
a partner.
Say hi to your family for me. That's Howie Long, Hall of Famer, here on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.